Hello, everyone. Great to see you all popping on. Some of you look like you've caught the sun there now. Beautiful evening it is. We're just going to give it, as we always do at the start of these, for those of you who are joining us, who are regularly on the tasting. I see a few names there. We're just going to give it 2 more minutes, just in case there's any stragglers, and that people have their setup ready for them. While we're waiting to get formally started, Shilton, do you want to go? And we'll do this again before we start. But do you want to give a rundown of the lineup? We're going to do them in so that people can get it in front of them and get ready.
Sure. We're going to start with the Nirvana. That's whiskey 1. Whiskey number 2 is the Brilliance. Whiskey number 3 will be the Mithuna. Whiskey 4 will be the Oloroso. And we end up with the Bold.
Fantastic, Bold. And I presume, see, this is where we always get, people in the waiting room, we'll let them in there. We always get lost in translation here when I was growing up with my English family, because bold in Irish is in Ireland means to be naughty. You know, you're not behaving, you're bold. Whereas in the UK, it means that you're brave and outgoing, and so it was always, my English cousins could never understand why my mother kept calling me bold when I was being naughty. She'd be like, "Bold boy," and they'd be like, "What are you complimenting him for?" So,
well, we'll find out today of either you're being brave or naughty at the end of the taste.
Yeah. Oh, I always get naughty. I get naughty, and then I take you to Nirvana. So, anyway, that was a weird way to start the tasting. I think there's been a lack of activity in that waiting room for a minute. So hopefully everyone, lots of camera shy folk today. But thank you everyone for joining us. I'm going to keep it my introduction brief. So for those of you who don't know, I'm from the Celtic Whisky Bar in Clarny. We're the sister company of the Celtic Whisky Shop, with whom you would have got the packs. We're the world's largest collection of Irish whiskey. We have a fantastic bar and restaurant, cocktails, craft beers, and we're also home to the Irish Whiskey Experience, where we teach everyone about the history of whiskey and how to enjoy Irish whiskey. Now, Shilton, in our whiskey classes, when we boast about how popular Irish whiskey used to be in the 19th century, we often mention India as being a big export market for Irish whiskey. Before we get started with the Paul John whiskey, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself and then talk us through the brand and the order we're going to go in again?
Sure. My name is Shilton Almedia. I am from Goa, India. I work for Paul John as a regional manager for European markets. Pretty much I've been here for 5 years, but out of that 4 years, I lived in a suitcase, and the last 1 year in one room, to sum up all five years over here in the UK. That's me. My journey started off with the whiskey in 2006 when I first moved in the Middle East. I used to work for Qatar Airways in the duty-free shop at the airport. Where for 5 years I've been selling the most expensive whiskeys, but without trying any of them. I have no idea why people were buying it. All I could do is read about it and find out why, because you're not allowed to drink in the Middle East. All you can do is just do your own research. 2012, I moved back to Goa, which is home for me, and I joined Paul John in Goa, working in Goan market. And 2015, I moved here. That's pretty much about me. The whiskeys we're going to try today are Paul John Indian whiskeys. I'm not sure how many of you guys have tried the Indian whiskey before, or what are your thoughts if you had tried before. If you have been to India and you have tried a whiskey in India before and you did not like it, I've heard that many times. Yeah, I was in India once, I tried one, I wasn't happy with it. So we'll cover that all today. Once again, the lineup that we're going to do is Nirvana, Brilliance, Mithuna, Oloroso, and end up, as Luke said, being naughty with Bold. So that's a lineup. I always we were having this chat before you guys joined in the room, and I myself I'm a big whiskey lover, even if it is for any time getting out in the bar and after a show. So I always say you should pour a dram first and then start talking. So that's my concept. So you got Nirvana over here, which is an easy sipper. So enjoy that as we talk, as I tell you about the brand and about the history and everything, and start with The first whiskey, Nirvana, is at 40% ABV. It's an entry level. It's a stepping stone to the range of the Paul John. It's not been there from the beginning, but just launched 2 years back or so. It's an unpeated single malt whiskey at 40%. So let me know what you think about it. It's quite fresh. It's got a lot of orange peel freshness coming on that dram. It's perfect for me. I love it. I love it in a cocktail. I love it as it's an easy sipper. I will say it's a summer drink for myself. Love it. So let me know. You can always put in your comments. I'm sure Luke or myself will just pop up the comments as we go.
Yeah, that's actually something I always forget to say to people. But most people on this tasting, I can see have been on our tastings before. But we want to hear people's tasting notes and comments all the way through. Please do keep them coming. I'm quite jealous of you living out of a suitcase, because it's a suitcase in Dublin these days is €1,200 a month. So like, you aren't doing too bad.
Yeah. So yeah, Paul John whiskies are made in Goa, on the west coast of India. I'm not sure if you have been to or heard of the place Goa. It's a very famous holiday destination. You hear it for all. It's also called as the party capital of India, to make it easy to understand. Goa is on the west coast. It gets a lot of hot and humid climate. Sorry, I just saw the comment. We are on the Nirvana as the first whiskey. So Goa is very hot and humid. It has got a Portuguese influence on it. If you be to Goa or read about it, you'll find a lot of this Portuguese food, the culture. It's a mix of two different cultures. The whiskey itself, I mean, I'm not sure how many of you guys are trying whiskey for the first time, or Indian whiskey for the first time. Whiskey making in India goes way back in the 18th century. It's the British Raj when the first whiskeys were whiskey making came in 1820s. When Edward Dyer, a man, set up the first distillery up north of India. It's in a place called as Kasoli. This whiskey, this is because it was the British summer camp. So a lot of people, it was an easy sell for the man to sell the whiskey. But post-independence in 1947, the production of whiskey making was hampered because there wasn't enough barley for people to eat. Why do you want to make whiskey? As simple as that. That's when people started looking for other alternatives. And today, India is very much known and one of the biggest whiskey market in the world, where most of the whiskey is made out of molasses spirit. It's molasses-based spirit, if you can say, which is the economy segment whiskey. 2004, Amrut launched their single malt in the world. And then 2012, 2008, when the Paul John, the distillery was set up, we started distilling in 2009. And 2012, the first whiskeys were launched in the UK. That's how Paul John was launched. The company itself, Mr. Paul P. John, the chairman of the company, he started the company in 1996 selling Indian whiskey for the Indian market, just the economy segment whiskeys. And he used to travel. He loves traveling. And on his travels, he came across single malt whiskeys, and he said, why don't I start my own whiskey? So there's not much difference in the production. It's double distilled in copper pot stills, matured in American oak cask or different cask, what we have for a minimum of 3 years. It's exactly the same, but there are a few differences which I'll mention to you. The two main differences in the whiskey is that we use a 6-row barley. We use a 6-row barley to make our whiskey instead of a 2-row barley. So 6-row barley, it's quite simple. You get 6 rows of grains on one stem rather than 2-row, which you see over here. 6-row barley is very high on protein and low on starch, which is the opposite of a 2-row barley. So to start with, that's a very healthy whiskey you're drinking today. So the 6-row barley will give you that oily feel on the palate. It's got a sticky, buttery finish on the whiskey, a long finish. So you get a different character to the liquid. The second biggest difference will be the maturation The maturation for us, the extraction rate is a lot higher than Scotland or Ireland or any place in Europe because of the temperatures. The extraction from the wood is about 3 to 4 times faster than a colder climate. So you extract a lot flavors from the wood. It's hot and humid. The average temperature at the distillery, at the warehouse, is about 23 and 25 degrees Celsius. That's an average. It can go up to 40 degrees Celsius or 45 in May, and the lowest will be about 17 and 19, which we call as winter. I'd be very happy if I see 17 and 19 over here in London. So,
well, it's 25 degrees here in the south of Ireland today, so we're not doing too bad.
Yeah. So that's the best time I see. I'm like, oh, it's nice and 23. I feel like I'm home, kind of a feel. The humidity is on average, it is about 60 to 70% humid, but it can also shoot up to 95%. So there's lots of salt in the air. There's a lot of humidity and we're also very close to the sea. The distillery is just about 10 kilometers away from the sea, so not very far. So these are the two main differences which will which are there. Otherwise, the rest, everything is the same. In the process, fermentation, we do 60 hours plus another 15 hours of rest. So there's not much of a difference in the whole process of the whiskey making. But yeah, this is the Nirvana, which we are sipping on right now, is the only whiskey which is chill filtered. It's natural colors, all natural colors. I have not mentioned the age on it yet. I will let you guess. Pop in what you think. Put down a comment on what do you think is the age on that. It's a young whiskey. That's the only clue I can give you. But yeah, it's quite this fresh at 40% chill filtered whiskey. I think it has got a lot to offer.
Ian reckons it's 2 to 3 years. Bob has a good taste. He knows there with orange peel and yeast toasted finish. It's a nice sipper. Ian also says he tried the Nirvana for the first time in a couple of weeks ago, and he was quite impressed. Really nice sipper. Sean McHugh said, I had the Amrat single malt before. Awful, worst whiskey ever had. This is nice. So shots fired there at the Amrat.
Sean, I'll send you a gift hamper.
Well, we have the Amrat in the Celtic Whiskey Bar, and now we have the Paul John as well. So when things reopen here, you can come down and you can try them side by side and compare.
Always said Amrut is the best Indian whiskey I have ever tried after Paul John.
Bob says guesses 3 years. Liam says I've tried Solan number 1 before, about 15 to 20 years ago. Can't say I liked it. I'd say this is, when I first started nosing this, I thought it was quite a bit green and malty on the nose, but the longer it sat in the glass, the more that's kind of changed to a kind of a kind of a sweetness almost. It's definitely grown on me the more I've sat with it. It's very, very drinkable anyway, no matter what age it is. It reminds me a bit of some of the younger Dingles whiskey, which is a new distillery down here, in Kerry where I am. So it's interesting. Tom here says it tastes quite young, like a 3 to 4 year old Irish, so much younger given the climate. Do you want to put us out of our misery?
It is a 3 and a 4 years old whiskey. That's right. It's a very young whiskey. It's also, American oak ex-bourbon cask, so nothing changes over there, but it's all natural color as well. And I think for a 3 to 4 years old whiskey, chill filtered whiskey at 40%, that's a lot going on over there on the flavors. I personally, myself, I love that freshness, like your orange peel, citrusy kind of freshness coming in on the nose straight away to you. So I love those notes in a whiskey. So that's why I always said it's more of a refreshing, summery whiskey for me on this one.
And you said it was American oak, was it?
Yeah.
And was that ex-bourbon or
ex-bourbon cask? Yeah. We used to at some before we used to use a cask from Jack Daniels and Jim Beam, but now we are on Buffalo Trace. Where there you go, Steve is here.
Steve's nodding away.
Yeah. So we are with Buffalo Trace now. Michael always wanted to. Our mustard distiller Michael always wanted to work out. I think he'll be the happiest person with the cask that he's getting right now.
It's interesting what you were saying about the distances from the equator and the temperature impacting maturation, because I know distilleries in the south of Ireland that claim that they get half a year for every year on distilleries in the north of Ireland because they're so much closer to the equator, and we're still miles away. So it must be really aging fast down in Goa.
Oh well, it's age. I mean, in short, the angel share, the evaporation for us per year is about 8 to 10%.
Wow.
So that's a lot compared to
losses.
Yeah, that's a lot of angel share. We always we do this once in a year we do a trip back for the sales conference in Goa, and every time I said only last year the angel share will be less because we didn't visit it, the distillery.
Oh, very good, excellent.
So yeah, that's the Nirvana. I hope it was a good start. It was a good start to everyone. I also, if you are into, a lot of people say, and especially when you work with guys in different markets like Steve, and it's like, Shilton, what is the best cocktail do you think can go? And I always say, drink the way the Indians drink. The perfect cocktail, I would say, I mean, what I enjoy the Nirvana the most is with the highball. And I personally like a ginger ale. So ginger ale with that is quite refreshing for me if you fancy a cocktail later.
The drink that changed Irish whiskey forever, the whiskey and ginger. I'd say it would go lovely in this. All right, and this is €40 at Celtic, so it's very competitive price wise as well. Definitely, and I'm sure that the lads in the shop would do a nice deal in it if you call into them. Once you're friendly to them, compliment their beards. Good way to get a discount. Marvelous. So will we come on to the Brilliance?
Yep. If we're good with this, the next one is the Brilliance. Brilliance. If you have got it in your glasses, I will say, or I don't know if you guys have got 2 different glasses or 5 different glasses in front of you, but if you do have it, it's nice to compare and see how it changes. So just keep the last glass of Nirvana, just an empty glass as well. It's okay if you have done with it, but you can just nose it and see the difference in the Brilliance and see how it has grown. Brilliance is at 46% ABV. Brilliance is at 46% ABV, non-chill filtered whiskey. When I say non-chill filtered, I just remembered this during one of the shows I was up, and we have mentioned on the bottle itself, if you look at it saying non-chill filtered, and one of the guys came to the stand and said, "Oh, can I have that non-chilly whiskey?" I said, "Well, it's not a chilly whiskey, it's a non-chill filtered whiskey." So it's a non-chill filtered whiskey. As you can see how much it has grown. American oak again, ex-bourbon cask on this. The age is a little more. It's a 5 and a 6 years old whiskey on this. But we had Brilliance as the entry for so long before Nirvana, because as you can see, it has got more to offer than Nirvana at 46 though. So you got a lot of vanilla and honey coming up. This is a lovely dram. If you're getting into, if someone says I want to try an Indian single malt I've not tried before, then I will say go with the Brilliance. Nirvana is always a dram which is for people to get into single malts and understand what a single malt is. This will give you a proper definition of an Indian single malt whiskey. I mean, let you know what Paul John is all about. And you will also see that the signature that you find over here, you will also see that in the rest of the whiskeys as well. So here's your Brilliance. There's got some light tropical fruity notes on this. We have got some expressions as well over here, which I'm sure you guys will soon get it in Ireland, which are big on tropical fruits. This has got some light tropical fruits. You will see that more if you keep the whiskey in a glass for some time, and you will see the way it just opens up. If you're struggling, if you're trying it for the first time, if you're enjoying it, enjoy that. But just before you finish the dram, I will always say, I do it myself, to add a drop of water just before you have the last sip to see how it opens up. You could be disappointed. You might not like it, but at least you have learned something from that dram, saying is it good with water or not. But since you are discovering that dram right now, I will strongly recommend do it on the last sip at least, just one drop. Brilliance opens up a lot. Tropical fruity notes. I love this tropical fruit, but not big. mangoes, bananas get very light on it, but very big on vanilla and honey.
No, you definitely get those tropical flavors in the glass. Bob says pineapple, and David says some banana for me as well with the honey, and definitely honey. It's immensely drinkable. If we hadn't said it, I wouldn't have immediately thought it was 46%. While we're sipping on this and exploring this, Bob has a comment saying he's really intrigued with the distance to the sea and the salt comment. I recall this with wine in the south of France and rosés close to the Mediterranean. Do you think? I mean, it's quite, people ham it up anyway in Scottish whiskey. I don't know how true it is, but they if you're on the west coast, they often say you get salty flavors imparted into it. What do you think? I know you mentioned it already, but how big a difference do you think that location to the sea makes in terms of the maturation?
We have seen it with the whiskeys that we get, so I will count on it, and you will see the difference with the next whiskey when we move on. We are very close to the sea, and it's very humid. There's lots of salt in the air. So we at the warehousing as well, we have 3 warehouses. 2 of them are on the ground, and 1 is an underground bunker, which is less humid because it's all controlled. The whiskeys which are underground will be more on tropical fruit, more mellowy, more creamier. The one above are more robust because of the salt in the air, because of direct contact with the air. So yes, there is a difference you will see. Even on this whiskeys, if you, for example, Brilliance, if you give it a good 6-second chew, you will get a slight saltiness on the edge. It's not big on salty, but you get that saltiness if you give that big chew on it. So yes, for us, it's a tropical climate, it's close to the sea, so it does give us an effect. I wouldn't say that it defines that. It's not that we are close to the sea and we are very salty. No, that's not. That will be very wrong for me to say. But no, it is. You get an element of it. You get a hint of that salt. Yeah.
I can't get over, actually. You're saying this is only a couple of years older than the Nirvana. It tastes like so different. Like it's a really much more rounded whiskey. There's a lot more going on, and I don't know if it's suggestive, but you're right about the salt and the side of the gums, definitely. This is an incredibly drinkable whiskey. Like a very impressed with it compared to the Nirvana. Like, not the Nirvana was bad, but this is lovely.
Yeah, I mean, Nirvana is an easy sipper. I mean, if Nirvana had to go to the gym and start working out, that will be Brilliance, right?
Speaking of which, what's the idea behind the name Nirvana and Brilliance?
No, well, Nirvana comes from Buddhism, so which is the highest level in Buddhism. There is no pain and suffering, so that's how I will term it as. And it was, I mean, if you look at the packaging itself, it's one of those more Indian fancy packaging that we have on Nirvana, with the orange box as well. Compared to the Brilliance. Brilliance, I mean, the names are quite simple. Brilliance, it's a nice, simple, fantastic whiskey. I always say it's a no-nonsense whiskey for me. Brilliance, it's right balanced whiskey, as you rightly said as well. And you will see the Mithuna as well, which is named after the zodiac sign, which the names are quite simple. Oloroso is just because it's Oloroso cask being used. So they're quite simple, except for the limited editions. And Mithuna, the Nirvana, which we had, is quite kind of a fancy, funky whiskey.
No, excellent. Vitali in the chat here says, reminds me of a pot still type with that mix of spice and sweetness. So yeah, I totally get that. It does have that kind of spiciness. Maybe a bit less of the white pepper on the finish, but it definitely has the mouth presence and that bit of spice. That's a good shout. I don't know if you're a fan of Irish pot still whiskey, Shilton.
No, I've not come across many because, to be honest, it all depends on the whiskey fairs and test and festivals that you come across, and that's the only time you can try it out, or in a bar. But yeah, I've tried a few, but not something which I will keep in mind.
But it's one of the most frustrating things about Irish whiskey is that our unique distillate that's geographically patented is called pot still, which immediately people think of the apparatus for distillation, which was going to be a question I was going to ask you when we were drinking the next whiskey about your stills. But in Irish whiskey, pot still whiskey is actually whiskey that uses raw or other barleys in the mash bill, so it's not a single malt. And those raw barleys and oats and other things add that kind of chewiness and that spiciness, and it's quite a unique whiskey style. Often takes on a lot of flavor at a younger age as well, which in many ways is another thing that the Brilliance clearly has going for it as well. So I think for most of the people I know, who particularly someone like Vitaly who joins our chats, comparing it to pasta whiskey is probably the highest compliment you can pay it. Bob says, after chewing and getting the salt, there is a not unpleasant numbing in the mouth. So there you go. He's being transported to another plane with the with the whiskey. This is fantastic. Unless anyone's got a question coming into the chat, it might be worth to kind of slowly come on to the Mithun. I know I've kept a couple of bits in the end of in my glass for reference. Is there anything
I always do that myself as well. I keep some whiskey back so that you can go back to it and compare it with what you're trying. And that's why you need more glasses in front of you. But yeah, something which we mentioned over there, and tasting notes, and you find so many different. I mean, it all depends on different palates. So it's a personal thing what you get on the whiskey, on the dram. I still remember my first trip up in Poland when I was up, and one of the whiskeys I was talking about tropical fruits. And I just went with it. I started my whiskey romance and started talking about the dram. And I said, oh, I get a lot of bananas on this one. And one of the guys stopped me saying, Shilton, I'm sorry, but the bananas that you get in Goa are not the same we get in Poland.
Wow, what a comment.
Which was true. So it's kind of, it's all about, I mean, I can go on with tropical fruits. I come from Goa, we get a lot of those. So we can keep commenting, but it's all on a personal, what you think and what you get in the drink.
Yeah, well, they didn't have bananas in Poland until 1991, so I wouldn't worry about
it. Nice. So if we are good to go on the next one, or if you have an extra glass, just pour that whiskey. It's a limited edition. I will say you're very lucky because it just come out. There are many places many markets which this has not even reached yet. It's an award-winning whiskey on Whiskey Bible as the third finest whiskey. It is, and there are a lot more awards coming in as well for that. It's a limited release. We came out with the Zodiac releases. There are 12 Zodiac signs, and we did one name each for every name. We came out with the Kanya, which was the Virgo. Mithuna is Gemini. And the one that you're having. There are only about 3,500 bottles in Europe of this. It's a higher ABV at 58%. So watch out. The last thing you want is to burn your nostrils if you dive into it. So go easy on that. This is very interesting. I will really want to know as many comments as you can on this, because it is a very new dram. A new whiskey. I myself am having a miniature of this, of the sample. This is matured in virgin oak and finished in ex-bourbon. So it's quite a different whiskey. I was talking about the underground warehouse, which is my favorite place in the distillery, which you can smell that wood. When you walk in, you can literally smell it, and I fall in love with it. Every time I nose this whiskey, it takes me straight away to that warehouse. It's that feel. It's a lovely dram. You got a lot of oak coming in over here, ginger spice coming in over here. Of course, you get that spice from virgin oak, but it is also balanced off with the ex-bourbon cask. So I do love it. A lot of people have given it saying, Shilton, that's so far the best one you guys have done, and all those comments. But yes, do let me know what you guys think on this. I'm very much interested to go along with this. I can go on with this. This is my whiskey romance. You can just hold the glass and you can have a long chat with someone without even wanting to sip it, just nosing it and falling in love with that kind of dram.
Henry in the chat there says there's no way that's 58% in the nose. When you said careful about the nostrils, that was the first thing that popped into my mind. What Henry says there, that you don't get that burn that rushes into the back of the nose when you put your big snout into the whiskey too fast. Thomas said without tasting the ABV, the ABV doesn't come through on the nose, so he agrees as well. You said it was virgin oak and then finished in bourbon. Well, what remind us again? What years or what ages are we talking about in terms of the length of time and what was the kind of thought process behind recasking ex bourbon? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm being ignorant here, but it doesn't seem like a common route for the cask aging to go.
It's 5 years in virgin oak and then 1 year in ex bourbon cask. We got the virgin oak for the first time. I mean, we always worked with ex bourbon, and then we got the Oloroso and PX, and then came in the virgin oak for us to try. And I personally feel, I mean, if you have tried a virgin oak, after trying a few virgin oak matured whiskeys, you get this oak spice a lot on it. I think the ex bourbon cask, finishing it for 1 year, has given that mellowed down that spice and has got the right balance on this. That's my personal feel, I think. There's got some chocolatey notes as well on this one. But I think, I mean, if you have a virgin oak, it's big on the wood spice. This one is the right balance. It's very chewy. It's very chewy. You can go on with that. If you give it that a big chew in your mouth, you can get that spice coming in a lot. So I think the ex bourbon has balanced it off nicely rather than just going in one direction on the wood spice.
Yeah, no, because you can with the virgin oak. Particularly we get these Pappy Van Winkle brands and that, you know, they mature for so long, they're basically like chewing on wood.
Do you get it?
I'm being facetious because I can see Steve smiling there. But that's the criticism that gets thrown at these virgin oak casks, that the tannins and the woody flavors take over. So it's an interesting idea to balance it off with ex bourbon. I suppose in that sense it's logical, yeah. No, but it's a lovely whiskey, and I totally agree with Martin's tasting notes there about brown sugar, cigar box. Cognac is an interesting one. I wouldn't have thought of myself, but with that kind of sweetness in the back, that's good. Black pepper. Bob says chocolate, marzipan. Tom says I've done 30 plus tastings in the last year, and this is unique. Really like it. So that's a great compliment. And David says love this one. A worthy follow on to Canya, lemon, orange bitters, and licorice for me. So it's going down a hit there. Vitaly also says, yes, oily and oaky, but very soft. Think I feel a hint of tea. Definitely with that kind of the well-stewed tea with a bit of tannins. I can see that. This one should be called Brilliance. So there you go.
Yeah, it's a nice fancy packaging as well. It comes in over here, which is the Mitana. The Kanya is a red one. I don't know if you guys have tried the Kanya or heard of it. It's a red one, similar packaging. Yeah, it's Kanya is a very different profile of whiskey. That was a 7 years old whiskey. There you go.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. I was throwing away that box today and I was admiring it when I did. So yeah, it's no, it is. I'm joking, but I'm not joking. It is lovely. Bob says age. So you said, was it 5 years and then 1? Was it?
Yeah.
It's a 6-year-old whiskey, and doesn't taste it again. It's quite impressive in that regards. While we're enjoying this, could you tell us about your distillation setup? I know there's a lot of our regulars on there who are big into their still sizes and the different methods of heating them and that. Could you talk a bit about through your stills and
yep, as I said, I mean the fermentation itself starts at 60 plus 15 15 hours of extra rest for natural fermentation to get it more complex. Distillation, it's copper pot stills, Indian made copper pot stills, and 15,000 and 9,000 liters, 15,000 on the wash and 9,000 on the spirit. We have got 2 sets. It's a mirror image. We worked with 1 set before. Now there's a mirror image, so it's just double the production. On that, we get per day, we do about 4,000 liters a day in the production side. The line arms, one of the differences is the line arm which you see on the still will go higher up rather than going down for us. It's just so that we have maximum copper interaction. and get more interaction. You get this peppery notes, nice more of your nutty, fruitier whiskeys on that. Pretty much the few points to make the differences for us. We have well, after the distillation, we also have an extra condenser. We have to keep the spirit at an 25 degrees Celsius because of the heat that we get at the distillery. So it's like a small tube or like a condenser which keeps it at 25 degrees to maintain it. So it's kind of, that's some one of the difference. We use maximum copper interactions. Everything on it will be copper.
That's an extra condenser. That's interesting. That's certainly not a problem any Irish distillery faces anyway.
Yeah.
But no, that's fantastic. And you started distilling in 2008. Have you tasted some of the oldest stock that's in there? What's the oldest release you've done? And what's the oldest?
2009 we started distilling. The oldest we have is 11 years old. Well, but that's just an experiment to see how it goes. The only challenge is to make sure that the wood should not start dominating the liquid in there, because of keeping it in one cask for a long time. You're giving up everything on the flavors, and there's nothing much more to offer. At the moment, in 11 years, we are fine. We are good to go. Nothing's wrong. But I think Michael is just working on seeing and trying to push it how far we can go and see in Goa with the maturation, with the long maturation in one cask. We will also have to keep an eye on the angel share, because if you're losing 8 to 10% a year, you filled up the cask with 200 liters, 10% a year, 20 years whiskey. No, that's what's left.
And in terms of whiskey regulations in India, obviously there's even between Europe and Ireland and everything, there's varying laws on what you can and can't call whiskey. Well, how do those differ? And the reason I ask is because of what you're saying about the angel share, in the sense there's some famous horror stories of Scottish distilleries opening really old casks and realizing it's no longer 40% ABV, and they can't bottle as 50-year-old whiskey as a 50-year-old whiskey, or I don't know how apocryphal those stories are, but that's what we hear. What are the kind of the limits you operate in down in Goa?
It's I just had, before we started this, I had a 1-hour chat with someone in Scotland, one of my friends, just talking about what can be called as whiskey and not, and trying to figure out something from India in terms of Indian whiskey. So there are a few changes. 2017, there are a few changes in the law, but most of the Indian market has been dominating by the economy segment, which is if you look at the top 10 selling spirits in the top 10 selling whiskeys in the world, you will see at least 5 of them are Indian brands today. And one of the brands which started, which Mr. Paul started and John Distillery is Original Choice as a brand of whiskey for the Indian market. We were the first company to come out with a whiskey. I'll show this. I always keep this. I never drink it, but I always keep this to show. We're the first company to come out with a whiskey in a Tetra pack.
Interesting.
Yeah. This particular brand sells 1 million cases a month.
Wow.
Steve, like our bosses will be happy if we do that.
They used to be able to get, I don't know if you still can, used to be able to get Tesco value Spanish red wine in those Tetra packs.
It's like your small whiskey tiffin. Sadly, it doesn't come with a straw, but yeah, it sells 1 million cases in a month. So there are many brands over there, which such brands which sell huge volumes. Total consumption in India itself per year is somewhere around 1.4 or 1.5 billion liters a year. So that's how much whiskey is being consumed. So it's huge. But recently things are being changing. There are more of premium whiskeys coming in the market. People are being educated, exposed to different whiskeys. They have come across different whiskeys like Amrut, Paul John, Rampur. I mean, we have even opened up a visitor center where people can come and we educate them in Goa. So it's changed a lot, but we could still get along and make Paul John and sell it in the Indian market. But we do follow the same rules and maintain the 3-year maturation and maintain everything just to show that, it's just a whiskey from another place and done a bit differently, but it's the same style of whiskey. So it's a single malt coming from a different region. It's exactly like any other single malt, but just made in India. So it gives you the different. That's the whole message that was wanted to be.
You should never let the Scottish talk down Indian whiskey in terms of regulations. They spent most of the 19th century destroying whiskey in terms of what they're putting unaged grain spirits into aged single malt stock, and the big Irish distilleries wanted at one point were petitioning the British government to not allow what they made in Scotland to be labelled as whiskey because they thought it was sacrilegious. So the idea that they would I'm not saying that the gentleman you were having the chat with was, but the idea that they would tell anyone how to distill their whiskey is farcical if you ask me. Tom says, climate-wise, I visited Kavalan Distillery in Taiwan. They lose phenomenal amounts to the Angel share. Nothing would be left after Scotch/Irish aging. Lovely whiskey, just about beats. Kanya, is there a caramel colouring in this?
No, none. Any of the whiskeys, none of the whiskeys that you have in the Paul John range uses any caramel or coloring. They're all natural colors. All of them are non-chill filtered except for Nirvana. Nirvana is the only whiskey which is chill filtered. Otherwise, they're all non-chill filtered whiskey. That's all natural from the wood that you get for Paul John.
Oh, excellent. There's some great comments, so keep them coming in. I've added a bit of water to this, and I think the oak, that kind of what you'd expect from virgin oak cask, comes through a bit more on that kind of woody spice in the front of the tongue once you've added a bit of water, which is interesting. It's normally the other way around for me personally, but yeah, it's an incredibly drinkable whiskey, and I believe, let me just confirm. I actually don't have a price for this one at Celtic at the moment, but keep an eye out. I'm sure we will. The Brilliance is €52 compared to the Nirvana's Bold. So there you go for anyone who's looking. We got a question there from Sean McHugh saying, what does chill filtering do?
Okay, so chill filtration, it's a process done. It's more of for cosmetic reasons. It's a lot of companies do it. When you do a chill filtration, you will freeze that whiskey to minus degrees and pass it through a filter. What happens with that is most of the natural oils, your fatty acids, will be left up, and the liquid passes through. So you will lose a lot. You will lose a lot on the oiliness, the fatty acids, a lot of flavors. But the difference in that is if you have a chill filtered whiskey and if you have a non-chill filtered whiskey, if you pour them in different glasses, there are chances of your non-chill filtered whiskey to be turning hazy after some time. It could be cloudier because of the fatty acids, which you will not see in a chill filtered whiskey. So as I said, it's for cosmetic reasons, so that it looks good in a glass. Add some ice in it. It's still nice and shiny of that color. It's good for your Instagram photos. So yes, it looks nice. But if you are more your non-chill filtered whiskey will give you more of those oils and fatty acids, some more flavors.
No, that's excellent. Bob says, well, Bob, it's a great question, but I was wondering, I think actually maybe if we tried the Oloroso cask and then we could come back to Bob's question.
So the Oloroso is the latest edition, 2000 last year, actually in March. That's when we got to take crossover here in Europe. We couldn't get out much for shows and events and all that because of the lockdown, but look at that color.
It's a stunning color, all right, yeah.
It's, again, there's no color added to it. It's an Oloroso cask. It's at 48% ABV. It's since the time it's come out, every time we do a tasting, it's been a favorite most of the time. 48% ABV, 5 years in American oak and 2 years in Oloroso cask. So it's not even fully, I'll show this again. It's not even a fully Oloroso cask matured whiskey. It's only 2 years in Oloroso. And that's what it does to us. The last time I was doing this, and maybe it's because of my camera, and says, Shilton, is there a cola in a bottle? So it's not, it's a whiskey.
Wow. No, the color really is stunning. On the nose, it's really in your face. This one should have been called bold. It like bursts up in there.
This one's got this, there are two in it. The other one is a Pedro Jimenez, but this one's got this nutty character, a lot of dried fruits coming in, big on nutty, dark chocolate coming in over here. I'll do this, and I will say, if you have different glasses, or if you have another glass, then just leave this in the glass. Even after having the last whiskey, go back to it 30 minutes in an empty glass as well, and see the way it changes, and you get a lot more flavors coming in. It's big on dried fruits, very nutty. It just keeps opening up.
Marvelous. Well, I'm going to spend some time nosing and tasting this. And while we're doing that, do you want to answer Bob's question, Sarah? He says, tell us about other astrology named ones that are available.
Oh, available, there is only the Kanya, which was the first release. There are only two that we have come out with. There will be 12 in total, different ones. The first one was Kanya, and this is the second one, which is Mithuna, which is Virgo and Gemini, and there will be 10 more. So I'm not sure if you guys have got some. Steve should be the person to answer on Kanya, but if there is any interest, and if you want to pick up that, you can always pass on. Let Luke know, and look to Steve from my right side.
I'll pass on to Steve.
But
I'll be seeing Steve on Friday again anyway. So
there could be a few of the Kanya still available for pickup, Steve. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a genius idea in terms of Father's Day gifts and everything. Is there aside from the symbolism and the meaning behind the astrology signs themselves, are they bottled at certain times of the year? Is there another or casks filled under certain star signs, or is it just in terms of branding?
No, it's more of coming up with different names, and the whole idea is that when you do the when Michael is master distiller, Michael, when he comes up with the liquid, and then we decide on which star sign does it relate to, this liquid, and how does it relate to that. So, for example, if you look at the Kanya, which is Virgo, Kanya also means a woman in Hindi, in Indian language. So that's how it is. I mean, the liquid itself, it's 7 years old. If we try it, every time we do it in a blind tasting, people will say, the Kanya, does it have any sherry influence in it, or a sherry cask, some sherry influence in it, because of that nice, softer, 7 years old. Comparingly, if you look at how we are trying, it's a 50% ABV, it's nice and soft whiskey. So that's how you relate to the sign. Same thing with Mithuna as well. So we make the liquid first and then relate it with the name of which zodiac sign. So there's no order that you will get it. And if there was an order, I will have asked mine first, which is a Capricorn. So I will have asked for my sign first, so I know for sure that that's not how it works, Shilton. I'm not going to get it.
And asking as someone who knows nothing about star signs and astrology, bar what my star sign is, I believe there was controversy last year when they've decided to add new star signs. They moved things around. How has this changed your way of doing things?
The only way it can change, Luke, is that's more whiskey. So if there are 12
exactly, in a few years you'll be petitioning for more star signs to be added. Give us six more.
You just keep on adding the signs. There's not a problem. We'll just get more whiskey out.
Marvelous. Well, that's fantastic. We'd love to hear everyone's thoughts on this Oloroso cask. I'm actually surprised, given all the flavors I'm getting off of, and how much it's gripping the tongue, how tannic it is there on the sides, and salty as well. I'm surprised we're not having more people commenting away in the chat about it. I know you did say this, so my apologies for repeating the question, but how long was this in the Oloroso cask compared to, and it was ex-bourbon for how long, and then Oloroso?
5 years in ex-bourbon and 2 years in Oloroso. So yeah, I mean, it's not a big sherry bomb. I'm sure there are a lot of people who love sherry sherry whiskies. But this one, the balance on that, I think just because of the ex-bourbon and then just that 2 years is the right. And also at the same time, 48% ABV justifies it for me, I think. So it's nice and softer on the palate, still enjoyable. You get that nutty flavors. It's a bit drier, of course. Oloroso as a wine itself is drier, so you get the dryness on the end, on the finish. But when you have it in your mouth and you chew it, it just goes on. It builds up beautifully in the glass. It just keeps getting better and better in the glass. I feel so sorry for Steve. Every time I keep looking at him on the screen and I don't see a glass with him, I'm like, Steve, come on.
There he is. He's got it in his hand. Yeah.
I thought you're
there.
not drinking today for whatever reason, Steve. Sorry.
And his colleague Ian is commenting in there. He says that Oloroso is fabulous. And Ian says he poured them for him today. So he was made sure that Ian wouldn't be left without, or Steve wouldn't be left without. Ian made sure. Emily says powerful mixed nuts at first. Got a lot more chocolate after adding a drop of water. Martin says salty peanuts, apricots, dried banana, dark chocolate. David says lovely chocolate and dried nuts. All that Kenya talk had me distracted. May treat myself to one later. So there you go. Some great comments.
I don't know how many of you guys got it, but I find a lot of dark chocolate on this one, on the Oloroso. I'm not sure if you got it, but a lot of dry chocolate. There are two terms to describe this whiskey. For me, the two main first things which come out is dried fruits and dark chocolate to start with, and then it keeps building up a lot later. But these are the first two things which come to you.
I definitely got a lot of chocolate after I added a drop of water. I've added a drop of water, and it's kind of, compared to the Mithuna, I think the drop of water for me in this one has actually rounded it. It's helped it a bit. Yeah. Just my own personal preference. Obviously, it might be totally different for everyone listening in. So yeah, no, it's really interesting, and I think it's 85 euros at Celtic Whisky. So I think it stands up for itself in that range. It's 48%. Did you say?
Yes, it's 48% ABV. Yeah,
I think that's phenomenal. Sorry. Not a whiskey too fast as maybe lose my ability to talk. I think it's remarkable that it's different. Blind, I would have said the Mithuna was the lower ABV of the two of them. So that's really interesting. So,
that was the whole idea when I got the lineup from Steve. I was like, okay, I'm gonna put the Mithuna first because exactly the way you said, it's at 58% ABV. If someone who's not tried it will have kept that later on towards the end, maybe because it's high on ABV. But that don't give you that hit straight away on alcohol on the Mithuna. 48% on this is nice. It mellows down, and the whole idea is that because you're going towards the next whiskey after this as well, so you don't want to go from Mithuna. So I had to put it up that way. But one of the reasons for 48% is I think it's a right. It just pushes up from 46% from the core range, but it's not a big high on ABV. So where you get those big bombs. At the same time, in India for us, every state has got its own excise laws. So you can't sell more than 50% ABV in every state in India. So really? A country of 1.6 billion people, and you only give one or two expressions to the state of Goa, which is the tiniest state, and the whole nation don't like it. I don't think that's justified. So
and what's the reasoning behind the not allowing alcohol over that percentage?
Oh God, it's every state itself. They have got their own excise law. I mean, they don't allow more than 50% in every state. I think there are only 2 or 3 states in India where it's allowed. If you have to ship it from one state to another, that state. I think it's the same in the States as well. If you know how it works in the States, it's something similar. So, for example, getting a bottle of Brilliance, which we tried before, from Goa, where it is sold for maybe 30 euros, going into the next state, Mumbai, in Maharashtra, which is a neighboring state, will be at 40 euros. Still in the same country. You can that's why the border shops work very well. You can literally drive across and fill up your car and get back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's definitely, that's obviously within the European Union as well. Like, like I often go to France and buy Irish whiskey out there because it's cheaper, because the excise duty is less. So yeah, I suppose that's fairly common. I just never, and that's probably reflects more of my ignorance than anything else. But I didn't realize that there was anywhere that capped it. I thought it was either it priced it differently or totally banned alcohol. Like obviously in America, lots of dry counties, and obviously you had a prohibition and a temperance movement. But I've never heard of it being capped at a percentage. So I thought that was different.
Oh, it's a country of, as I said, Luke, it's a country of 1.6 million people. It's that's why we always use this term when we say incredible India. Whenever we do the promotions, it's a I'm a big football fan. I always say we have such a big population, but we just can't have 11 players to play to represent India.
Yeah, but you've got the best cricket league in the world, so there's something.
But I don't follow cricket.
You've got to be the only Indian in the world who doesn't. I think I'm an Irishman, and I think the Indian Super League is great.
Well, I follow it, but I don't like those big lengthy concepts. So as I said, we come from Goa, so Goa is more about just Portuguese culture and football, and we are meat lovers. So if you ban meat in Goa, that will be when you can upset a Goan guy.
And the Portuguese arrived there quite relatively early compared to Dutch and British arriving in India, I believe. When did the Portuguese arrive in Goa?
Oh, they arrived before the British and they left after the British out of because India got independence in 1947, and the Portuguese were in Goa still till 1961. So
wow,
yeah.
That's very interesting.
They all got in there. The British and the Portuguese. I mean, I always crack this joke when I'm in the UK and do tastings. You all came in over there and giving us the excuse saying that you are here to trade some spices, to get spices from India. I hardly see them being used in the UK today in any of the food.
Well, I mean, in general, I agree with you in terms of the cuisine, but I must say, like, some of the best quote unquote Indian cuisine I've had has come from England, and obviously the particularly the Indian and Bangladeshi expat community have transformed British cuisine.
Not the tikka masala, that is not an Indian dish. That's made in Glasgow.
Yeah, there's another one from Birmingham. Is it I can't remember which one it was now. There's definitely an Indian dish that's from Birmingham, but there you go. Anyway, that's a bit of the Balti, says Tom. So there you go. That reminds me. Speaking of the Euros going on, I listened to this podcast, and they've taken to calling Declan Rice basmati. And I thought that was quite funny. But there you go. Tom says, I was in Goa in 2016 and was never offered good Indian whiskey. I'll find the names of the barman and send them to you. Brilliant comment.
Tom, do let me know, because 2016 is a time where I mean, if you've been to Goa, you'll understand that it's not big on, not every bar, every shop you'll find it. A single malt whiskey, not only Paul John, but any single malt whiskey, because that's how the market is. There could be a retailer who will keep it, but they won't be able to sell it. Plus, the licenses are different for a store. There is one license for which the store, if I'm putting up a shop in Goa, I will just get an excise license to sell IMFL, which is the Indian liquor, which is Indian made foreign liquor. Don't ask me why the name, Indian made foreign liquor. That is a simple license. I can just sell the Indian stuff. But then if I want to get an imported stuff, I have to pay extra to get an imported license. So you will not find every store. They will just do their regular IMFL sales and be happy with a small store or a small bar. So maybe that is one of the reasons, Tom. I'm sorry, but next time you are in Goa, do let me know. I will point you out where is
the good licenses. Interesting. This has definitely been one of our most educational whiskey talks so far. Let's come on to the bold.
How many people do? I'm sure there are a lot of people who just discovered today something new. Like, for example, chicken tikka masala wasn't an Indian dish.
No, definitely, 100%. And we met an Indian fellow who wasn't into cricket. So I mean, And I'm sure it's the first time a lot of people have even drank Indian whiskey. So it's definitely a Wednesday night of firsts.
A
So.
night to remember, yeah. As we go to the next one, if I will say, if you have some water to just cleanse your palate, maybe, or just refresh it, because we are getting back to the ex-bourbon cask. So we just had something in Oloroso, so there will be a lot of the Oloroso sweet notes. So cleanse up your palate a bit before we go on. The next whiskey is called as Bold, which is naughty or brave. We'll find out in the next 10 minutes time. This is at 46% ABV. It's a part of the flagship, which you had as whiskey number 2, the Brilliance. So Brilliance and Bold are the flagships. 46% ABV, ex-bourbon cask. But this one is a peated whiskey, which I'm sure you guys have figured out on the nose itself. I don't know if there are any anti-peat drinkers here who don't like peated. I'm in love with peated whiskeys. I love peated whiskeys. This one ticks the boxes for me. We don't get peat in India. Now, this is another thing which is different, which is worth noting down and mentioning every time. So to make a peated whiskey, what are the options that we had? Option 1 could be we could get maybe a peated barley from Scotland and take it, or take a cask. But what Mr. Paul did was he wanted to keep the barley local, because we wanted to make an 100% Indian whiskey. Now, peat is not an ingredient. It's a flavoring agent. You keep the barley local, and you ship the peat in. So we take the peat from Scotland to India and do the malting ourselves in India. So the peat comes from Scotland, but the barley remains Indian. It's the same six-row barley. We take the peat from 2 different regions, and we use different whiskeys. We use it for different whiskeys. This one over here, we use the peat from Islay. This is all Islay peat. It's not heavy peated. If you want to note down on the numbers, it's about 30 ppm. So it's not a big heavy peated whiskey. It's medium peated, I would say. But it's a well-rounded whiskey. I mean, if you are a peat lover, if you like peated whiskeys, you'll understand why I said well-rounded. Many times, I love a peated whiskey, and I love that sharpness in my mouth. If I walk into a bar in London, people who know me, then for example, Milroy's, and the guys will say, "Oh, Shilton, you like your dirty whiskeys? Come here." And they just pour me a heavy peated whiskey. That's my style of whiskey. I love that. But this is well-rounded, because on the nose itself, you don't get the peat only. You get the same brilliance character which we had tried before, which is that vanilla, honey, some toffee notes on this, and the peat. It's got this Islay style peat, like fresh leathery notes coming in on this one. It again, give it some time, let it open up, and remember, we already had 4 whiskeys. But it really opens up a lot. It has got the right balance. When I have a sip of it, it's rounded. It's not sharp like your heavy big peated whiskeys. But when you sip it down, that's when you see the peat coming back to you. You start feeling warm. It's building up.
I think it's very different on the nose. It's not normally when with Scotch whiskey, you think, oh, it's kind of charcoaly or it's kind of floral, and I can't place this. It's I don't. There's something kind of farmyardy about it, but I don't mean that in a pejorative sense at all. I mean that in I grew up in a farm. I mean that from in a very much a positive sense, that you're kind of walking through a kind of yard and you get that kind of smell of but in a good way, of the fields. But it's interesting, and if as you say, it's peated and barley from India, then that means it's one step closer to any Irish whiskey that's on the market, which is all Scottish barley. So there you go.
Yeah, again, on the age, it's American oak cask, ex-bourbon cask, and 5 and 6 years old whiskey. So it's same like the Brilliant, same age, same cask type. The only thing is that this is peated compared to that. So yeah, was it Tom who mentioned that he was in Goa? If you've been to Goa, there is one of the food that we say the very, very famous thing is a bibinka, which is the famous dessert, which we use coconut and milk. I always this whiskey reminds me of that, and it's a perfect pairing every time I make that dessert myself and I pair it with it. So any kind of a vanilla based coconutty pairs very well. Dessert pairs very well with this whiskey.
Well, I can imagine so. And there is, once you get past with any good peat whiskey, once you get past the peat, you can pick up those cask flavors, and it is a bit more on the kind of the honeyed vanilla and even coconut side than the first few, which were a lot more tropical fruit flavors coming through. So that's interesting. That's for me personally anyway. That's interesting. David's in the chat here says, I was in Bangalore when Ireland beat Pakistan in cricket. Suddenly everyone knew about Ireland. John says, bold as the boy. So good. Totally superb. Many thanks. Tom says, wow. And Ian says, that is fantastic. So really great responses there to the peated whiskey, to the bold.
Well, I like the balance of this. Sorry.
No, I was only filling the dead air. Go on.
No, I like the balance of this, because it's not only it's. I mean, you will find when you say peated whiskies, and people who tried peated whiskies and love peated whiskies will understand what I'm saying. When you're talking about peated whiskey, the first thing you see is how peated is it? Is it heavy peated? The more peat, the better. Those kind of things which come in your mind. But this one over here is the right balance, because it's not only the peat. It doesn't let the peat dominate the dram. It's not the peat coming to you in the glass straight away on the nose, on the palate. It's both together. It's a combination of the flavors from Paul John that you get and the peat put together. That's why I said it's a well-rounded whiskey. It ticks off the boxes for me for a peated whiskey lover. And I'll put it this way: I come, just want to have a dram. I'm like, what whiskey do I want to have today? One of the Paul John. Looking at the shelf, pick up one. I'm going to have something different, but somehow I end up pouring that bold for me. Like, I was not supposed to. I do it every day. I'm like, I was not supposed to do it again today. But then that's how much I love the bold.
No, it's really great. And the more I go at it, the more there's like a meaty kind of bacon kind of flavor coming at the back of it, which is definitely a good thing. Tom says, this is what I was missing. It's nothing like a Scotch peated malt, but the dessert idea works. A peat malt ice cream. Interesting. We actually have a peated ice cream, or used to. We don't anymore, on our menu in the bar. Diarmuid says, love it. It's a musty peat, like a Lefroy, but not overpowering, similar to another Indian brand's peated expression. Interesting. I didn't realize there was another Indian peated expression. It's a very educational chat. Martin says, barbecued banana. I think that's definitely a good taste enough. Yeah.
There is a lot of our friends, in the industry, especially in other countries, guys from Belgium and Netherlands, when they visit Islay, they take the bold with them and do it as a blind tasting to some festivals up in Islay and say, what do you think about it, and what do you think? Trust me, blind tasting this whiskey, it's difficult to figure out what it is. You'll just pick up names on Islay and say, oh, this is like that or that, and you can just go. But then you say, okay, well, it's an Indian whiskey. So it's every time they send me messages, Shilton, this is what I did today, and nobody could guess it's a Paul John.
No, that's excellent. That's what I love about the blind tastings. It always shows up the snobs, like, it's a bit like the famous Coke versus Pepsi, that everyone goes for Pepsi in the blind tasting, but when the brand's involved, everyone goes for Coke. And I mean, I often say when we're doing tastings that I love to put a really expensive good whiskey early in the tasting and a cheap one at the end, and see what people vote on, because not now. I think we've got a very well informed and have great palates in terms of our people who join us in our tastings here. But some people just, you've drank more alcohol, you're more drunk, you're more relaxed. The last whiskey is always like, oh, this is amazing. Oh yeah. Oh wow. I'll give you €200 for this, even if it's like absolute muck, So yeah, but this really is great. Tom says, you don't seem to have any stock in stock, Luke. That's true. I had looked at that myself on the website. I'll have to ask Ali or maybe Steve about that. I'm down in Killarney and I don't have control of what goes into stock on the Celtic Whisky shop, but it's definitely something I'll look into and see if we can figure that one out. I know that I'm just looking there to see if we had so the last round of emails around new products coming in for me was from the last week of June. So it's possible that it's just coming onto the website in due time. Maybe Steve knows, he's typing away furiously on the chat there. So yeah, Emily says 52. Not the whiskey, the PVC tasting Coke wins. Dermot says edited is another Paul John edition peated. It's great too. Emily says hoping order didn't influence any taste as I've just ordered the bold. Steve says yes, it has been ordered and it should be in stock shortly. So yeah, I imagine it will come on. Ali, well, my boss is far too shrewd to be not including a whiskey in a tasting that he can't sell. So there you go. This is interesting. And speaking off of the comment there about Emily ordering the bold, it'd be great to hear what people's preferences are in terms of the lineup. Yeah, this. Have you any other interesting thoughts to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, the first of all, I will just add on the lineup and saying, before that, apologies if you can hear the little one making a noise. I've got the 6-week-old baby boy upstairs, so I don't know if you guys can hear it, but yeah. So
congratulations! Did you call him John Paul John?
No. Yeah, I've heard that comment. I've got those messages coming in. So yeah, thank you for that. He's been well behaved. He's being very bold, being very naughty now.
No, the reason I actually said that is because, and this is stupid, but this is what you say stupid things after 5 whiskeys. But our neighbour's boy is about a year and a half, and he's a lovely little lad. But he's called John Paul, and all I could think at one point in the tasting was, I need to get them a bottle of this whiskey. I'll drop it next door next week, and they'll be like, oh.
No, I mean, yeah, but getting back to this, I was talking about. Thank you, guys. I can see some messages. Thanks for that, for the wishes. Every time I do this tasting, do tastings, and we try to figure out the best of the evening. That's what we can do, the best of the evening. But that can't be the best, because there are. If you look at the 5 whiskeys we had, they're all different whiskeys. I'll put this way: there are if you do a whiskey festival where there are different stands, and if you're looking at one style of whiskey, you will go to that stand. But when you come over here, and the 5 whiskeys that you have tried, they're all different profiles, different characters. If someone comes and says, "I like peated," I can tell you what to try. If someone says, "I like this sweet sherry kind of a style whiskey," I can say, "That's the one you should try." I like something which is easy. I'm new to whiskey. Well, try the Nirvana. So there is a different, style of whiskey depending on the different palate and different moods that you are into. So difficult to pick one. All you can do is pick the favorite of the evening. Tomorrow, if you change the lineup from 5 to 1, it could be a different favorite of the evening. it always happens that way. But yeah, something interesting to cover. What's coming up next? Steve, can I say this? We do Christmas editions every year. We started in 2018. These are limited editions that we do were at 46% ABV. Oh, in fact, I have got one year. This is the 2021 that we did last year. So Christmas edition 2020, and it's the 18 we did Oloroso ex-bourbon lightly peated. 19 we did a Pedro Jimenez ex-bourbon lightly peated. 2020 we did a Virgin Oak Oloroso. And 2021 is something which we have not done before. Cask type we have not used before, but we got the cask in recently. Is we are using a port in Madeira and lightly peated. So something to look out for. They are limited editions, but they are not overpriced. They should be somewhere around 60 euros on the price mark dish. So they're not that expensive ones. So watch out for that. Should be out somewhere in September-ish. That is a new one coming in. Besides that, out of the range, we only have Mithuna, which is the limited expression on the table today. But the rest of it, we are new. We are new. I'm new to not. I've been once to Ireland in my life, but I'm sure I'll try and come back again and see you guys in person maybe next time I'm there and do a tasting. The last time I was there, I was only pointed out towards the bars and on the main street. And it's like, this is a bar you have to go and just drink for a drink. And it was a short trip. I was doing a tasting with the bar. I don't know. But there are many people who I'm still connected on Facebook. I don't even know the name of the bars. It was 3 years back. But yes, I will definitely. There is more interesting. There are miniature packs as well. If you want to think of that, of getting it out. But this is a range, and I would say we can make whiskey. Like, how much whiskey can you make, Shilton? We can make as much you want. The only problem is that people need to be drinking it faster, because if you don't drink it, the angels are going to take their share. So don't let that happen.
No, it's well said, and it's been a really impressive lineup. It really has. I mean, I've actually been like blown away by some of these last few, and it's been interested by what people are saying in the chat in terms of what their favorite is, because like Dermot says congrats, and David says congrats, and Ian says congrats. So congratulations, Shilton. It shows how ignorant, self-centered I am that wasn't my first thought. But brilliance and bold are delicious. Tied for the best, says Bob. Congrats on the newborn, says Barry. Tom says the only thing that's happened to me regarding coronal development through lockdown is that I've developed a taste for peated whiskey. I presume he means personal. I struggle with everything, and this is one of my favorite. Mithuna for me, ignoring the price, but the brilliance and bold are really hard to separate, says David. Dermot says love the bold, and I usually lean towards the peat, but the Oloroso is my favorite. Emily says Mithuna far and away my favorite, then bold, Oloroso, brilliant, and Nirvana. Bold as it tastes better than some Islay whiskey I bought for twice the price. So that's a huge compliment from Barry. Ian says close call with the Oloroso or bold. Don't think I could pick. Vitaly says Mithuna overall wins for me. Brilliance by value for money, but bold among peated. I don't know if he means peated in general or the peated in the tasting tonight. Steve said the Christmas edition will be available in Celtic Whisky in October/November. Alan says really enjoyed the Mithuna. Henry says first time trying Paul John last year, and it's fantastic stuff. Mithuna first, Oloroso second, bold third. Mithuna first, Oloroso bold, same for me. Vitaly says nice whiskies tonight. Our friends from L Mulligan's did a whiskey of the year tasting in December, and Paul John won the award. Don't remember which one though, just to highlight the PJ quality. Mithuna for me, bold is lively, peated, select cask, even better peated one if you try it. So some fantastic feedback there, Shilton, and it's interesting because we always try. My motto in the bar is we have an open mind to everything. The last thing you want is to have a closed mind to anything. But my only experience with Indian whiskey up to this stage, as I was saying to you before we came live, was with the Amrat, and so I didn't have, my expectations were low, and maybe that was ignorant and maybe xenophobic on my part. But it was like, I was thinking, oh, we'll see what they have to offer. But it's been really, really impressive. I must say. So yeah, thank you so much for joining and doing it with us.
Yeah, no, well, this is a very classic example, and I come from a country where it's very common challenge or issue, and which is very much aware that we're talking about open-minded, and it's a big difference of drinking a label versus drinking a whiskey. Mm-hmm. This is what we have done today, about trying the whiskey and understanding and going out saying, what do I like personally? And if you look at the comments itself, everyone's giving their own personal view. That's how it is, I don't want to go with a label and just because I've heard about it or someone told me about it, but I have tried it personally today, so I can make my pick. I do know what I like, and I can just go for it. I've seen the comments. Yes, I've seen the Mithuna being a favorite. You guys got a very expensive palette, I will say. but yeah, that's pretty much, if you guys are, we are new, we are growing in the Irish market, and if all goes well and looking at how it works, and we'll probably get some more as well. There are more in the expression to extend the range, which is there. But we just started off with this to see how it is, and if looking at this great reviews, we have got something which is more peated, something which is very big on tropical fruits at 55% ABV in the range. It's not even a limited edition, but this is the range. So we can always grow with the range in the market. But yeah, thank you for this evening and for this session. I enjoyed it. I was from a person living in a suitcase and a train station and the airport. When they said that you're gonna be at home for the next 1 year, I'm like, how am I going to live? And then thanks to the technology, that I can still have a dram with people and have meetings like the other day I had with Steve.
No, it's fantastic. I was very skeptical about Zoom tastings when it not with tasting. Sorry, Zoom tastings from the day we did them, first one back in August, has been fantastic. But Zoom meetings, what I mean, I was like, oh, this will never replace regular meetings. But now I'm like, this is brilliant. I don't have to drive half an hour to somewhere else or an hour to somewhere else to meet some chap. I can meet him in my kitchen and take the dog for a walk. It's definitely. I don't think we'll be reversing Zoom meetings anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, there are, especially with Zoom tastings, like whiskey tastings over Zoom are a great idea, because you can join from any part of the world. It doesn't have to be locally if you cannot travel. At the same time, the good thing is that you don't have to drive after drinking. You don't have to drive anywhere. The only thing you have to go is from one room to your bedroom, which is not far away. So this just even makes life easier. Besides, as much as I love meeting people in person, but I think there are a lot of good things about Zoom tastings as well.
No, you're 100% right, because like even next week, I'm invited to a small outdoor gathering with which is going to involve some whiskey from High Spirits, and I'm thinking, I have to book accommodation. I have to think, or do I pay for a taxi back? It's just, here I can just drink away and we all then.
I'll be very honest. I've never in all the 5 years time, I never thought of that I will ever do a tasting of 100 people, which I've done over Zoom, wearing a shirt and a shorts and slippers in my life. Well, I did it on the Zoom.
Well, at least you had the shorts and slippers on. I mean, I don't even go that far. I just put the shirt on. I hope I never have to stand up in the middle of a tasting.
No.
That is a brilliant comment, and it's a brilliant moment, I think, to park the tasting, which has been a fantastic experience. Thank you so much for sharing your time, Shilton. It's been brilliant, and the whiskies with us, and your extensive knowledge. It's been a fantastic evening, and it's gone, I think, really, really naturally. You're a pro at the way we've kind of gone from whiskey to whiskey and discussed different aspects of the brand, rather than a more formal presentation. So very, very impressed. It's definitely been top 6 or 7 tastings that we've done since Zoom wise, and that's going a long way, because we've done some phenomenal brands, phenomenal tastings. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me again, and thanks for coming in, and thanks Luke, thanks Steve for doing this. I mean, this is my second time in Ireland.
Exactly. You can tell people you're in Clarny.
I take this as my second trip in Ireland.
Perfect. Well, we can't wait to get you back over, maybe for Whisky Live in Dublin next year, or maybe down in Clarny for a visit to the Celtic Whisky Bar, and you can see this virtual background in person. And yeah, so definitely, there's very cheap from Farn 4 in Kerry to Heathrow. I flew return once for €27, so there's no excuses.
Well, yeah, I'm just outside Heathrow anyway, so it doesn't take much time. So I'll definitely come and see you guys at some point, and do this once it is allowed. Yeah.
Brilliant.
And we'll talk more about the Indian food, except chicken tikka masala.
Well, I must say, I this is there's actually I thought people were signing off, but they haven't. There's still 20 participants on here. But my first job, well, not my first job, but one of my first jobs when I was 16 was working in an Indian restaurant in Kerry, and it was run by two Bangladeshi lads, and it was great. I was basically there, like all I was there was to because my English is better than theirs, so I answered the phone and that was about it, and they did all the real work. But it was quite the experience. So for a 15-year-old or 16-year-old from rural Ireland, it was yeah, an
Well,
interesting time in my
most
life.
of the restaurants across Europe, not only in the UK, but across Europe are not even run in the kitchen. The people who cook is not they're not even Indian. They are Indian restaurants, but they are not. I was up in Elgin once, and I come from Goa, so Vindaloo comes from Goa. We do the best Vindaloo ever. Like, oh, I told him after a few experiences, said, do not tell the guy that I am from Goa in the kitchen. Make sure that it is not hot. Spicy, fine, not hot. There's a big difference between these two words. Trust me, this guy got it. The hottest vindaloo I ever had in my life. One spoon, I said, I'm not having this. No, that's not how vindaloo is.
I used to part of our when we do shift like 6-hour shifts in the restaurant, and they'd send you away with a curry, and I was like saying, look, I'm trying to build up my palate, so I was like, make it spicier and spicier each time. I was a teenage lad, so I was like, come on, keep going. And one day the chef was like, okay, look, now I'll make it proper spicy. And I used to smoke. I've quit smoking since, but at the time I used to go out drinking and I'd smoke with my friends, but I wouldn't smoke on a day-to-day basis. It was only after alcohol. I got this vindaloo in, the spiciest thing in the world, opened it up, took 2 bites, and I was like, I was running around the house and nothing would sedate this spice. And I was like drinking milk and I was eating bread and I ran outside. So I knew, I was like, geez, I was out last Friday, so I've got a box of cigarettes in my bedroom. So I pulled them out and I ran out the front and I smoked it. And so I went back inside and walked into, and my 2 brothers were there eating the curry, being like, hey, how are you getting on? As if the spice wasn't there at all. And I couldn't believe it. And this was me. I'd spent about 6 weeks working myself up to this level of spice. And my 2 brothers were like, geez, this is gorgeous. And I couldn't eat it.
No, it's a thing. It's a thing with the Indian people. I mean, I will say, because every time there is this place, we do the Ghent Whisky Festival in Belgium, and there's this Geneva bar. It's a lovely place. If you ever be to Ghent, visit the Geneva bar. It's a tiny little one, where the guy makes his own Geneva. And it's a bar, and one of the guys, we were at the show after the show, and we went after the whiskey festival. I said, Shilton, try this. I said, yeah, what is it? It's a chili infused Geneva, because he's been doing different infused. I said, yeah, but I don't want to try it. They're like, oh no, it's okay, you can handle it because you are Indian. I'm like, yeah, but I'm Indian. That doesn't mean that you can give me all the spicy hot food in the world. I said, no. I had a sip of that Geneva. I'm like, dude, it's hot. It's hot for an Indian. Don't even try it. That's how.
So that was definitely not a non-chili filtered.
No. The challenge is that the people over here in the restaurants, they use a lot of chili powder, red chili powder. That's not how food is made in India for us. That's why it's hot. We can go on about Indian food, so that's not it.
No, we will. We've lost one person there who was like, "This is boring." But Shilton, it's been great, and please do call over to us at some point. And if anyone has any questions, as per usual, I'm CC'd into the Zoom link you would have gotten, so reply to that, and I'll pass on the question to Steve or whoever, and we'll get it answered and get it all sourced. So, thanks so much for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. And thanks to everyone at High Spirits as well. So we'll have a great evening. Thanks, Shilton. We'll see you.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.